Welcome to the Tug of Heart podcast on Strong Island Radio. This is the place where we dig deep into the heart to rise in love. So let's join good friends Lori and Marianne as they discuss understanding and living from the heart.
Hello and welcome to Tug of Heart. I'm here with Marianne.
Hi, Lori.
How you doing? This is just
nice.
A quick follow-up to possibility. We ended our previous talk with awkwardness.
Yes.
And I think it's a good time to just point out accessing possibility and just how to bring into our awareness if we are in possibility or in impossibility physically. Specifically, in terms of feelings and interaction with others, are we recognizing or cannot recognize the soul in front of us, which requires that possibility that they are made of the same stuff as us, even though they're saying something different. And this is, you're such a great mediator, Marianne. This is something that you do. And I think it's kind of funny because you are an expert at negotiating possibility. I just made that up now.
Really? Thank you.
Because a lot of times you have even children with two different visions, and then you kind of round up the possibilities. But beyond that, what's harder to find a possibility that works for two than with two opposing children? Enter parents.
Right.
I'm saying this as a parent because we can be very locked into impossibility in terms of seeing things happen in a way different than the way we want them to happen. So it could be, and I've actually done this with my children where it's like, I want this to happen for them. I want you to do it, but I want it to happen like this.
Right.
We don't get to always pick all of those, right?
Well, and it's, I, especially in the role of principal, I had this magnificent opportunity of being able to have the wider view, right? We talk about the wider view and the narrower view. And parents, you are very honed in on your children. You see them.
Rightly so.
Of course.
Hello.
Yes, they are your precious beings. So it is really seeing things from a narrow perspective. And principal being different than teacher, who also is with the children every day. You're very up close with them. I would be able to step back and do a lot of observing. And in that luxury, in a sense, of looking at a child, I see it as that you get to see what they start to become ready for, because it's like, oh, he was able to do that. Or he said that. He is actually showing a readiness to move beyond where he's currently at.
I'm going to tell you this. This is so funny. This is from a couple shows ago. And when I am talking to you, a lot of times I told you I'll scribble notes down what I want to tell people when I'm talking to them because of my scattered thinking. There was this word I wrote down specifically for you. I was just before we started, and as you were talking, looking for a blank index card, and I found this, and I'm like, hey, she's talking about this, which is a word I wrote to share with you about you a couple shows back, but we didn't get to it. Gignomenon.
Gignomenon.
Okay.
Oh, is that like phenomenon?
Yes.
Is it?
It's in terms of the human experience, it means to come into being. So to be born, produced, to take place. So coming to be. And it means for us to come to be who we are involves change. Yeah. And this is a kind of a spin-off on what we were talking about last time. Change involves contraries.
Yes, it sure does.
So, we tend to withdraw from things that seem contrary. So we can't change without examining them. And I had mentioned that part before. So part of accessing possibility, for me, just talking about our talk itself, came from what I told you, that I've just been tossing around in my head, and that was you saying, step aside and ask yourself, am I being narrow-minded or not?
Yes.
The question. I'm going to go back to this because this is now, I integrated it into me, where it's part of, I think, how I operate, and I'm still working out how I operate with it at the same time. So specifically, when we were talking about recognition with another person, and you had said, like when you just can't see their point of view, just step aside, quietly ask privately, not secretively. Ask yourself, am I being narrow in my perception of this, my perspective? And that means, like, are you no longer seeing beliefs, judgments, or knowledge as the truth? This means you are open to possibility, okay? So am I being narrow? Do I see beliefs, judgments, and knowledge as the truth? My beliefs, my knowledge is the truth. Might be a little narrow, right?
Right.
Okay.
For sure.
Am I aware of my own conditioning in this moment? And the accumulation of it through the years. Okay. Now, we can't do all these things exhaustively, but it's the same sense of self that with exercise can rise more readily. And that's what you had said in our previous talk of intuition. So our intuition may have this sense without all this wordiness I'm telling you about. The wordiness is just to explain what's happening below the surface. Okay. So am I right now in awareness of the accumulated conditioning in my life? If I'm not aware of it, my perspective may be narrow.
Yes.
I'm not open to accessing possibility. Is this mind of mine and how it thinks and what it holds, my personal reality? Am I right now able to say that's not the ultimate reality of everything? If I'm not, I'm probably not accessing possibility, and I'm probably having a narrow perspective. So, excuse me, keep in mind that this is talking about when you get pushback from people because they can't see what you're seeing or working on, and they've not, which is okay. No shame in that. We don't ever have to see what other people see. What we do have to do at minimum is a very low, shallow form of inquiry before we pass judgment. So you can also say, am I being humble? Am I willing to accept that I don't know it all? And maybe even I just know a little bit in the scheme of all the things that all the people know in this world. If you're not, again, you may not be accessing possibility. So do you want to hear the shortcut?
Sure.
That I use? Because this is a lot of, like I said, wordiness. Like, who's got time to ask all these questions while somebody's just seen it as silent hostility or silent blockage or something? My shortcut question for me is just to simply ask myself this. If it's a winning day, I ask myself before I get into a mess. If it's another form of winning day, I ask myself after and learn from it. And that's just when I see something and you've interfered with my vision, or you see something and I'm unable to see it. The short answer is I step back and just close my eyes and ask myself, because I don't have time to do a self-examination in front of you. All I need to know is, what's my intention here? And the second thing, which I've told you before, is, do I trust Marianne's intention? 2 questions.
Right.
I could ask either, and either is probably enough to make a quick action if the situation calls for it. What do you think about this so far, and then we can build on it?
Yeah. So what is my intention, right? That in itself, as an understanding that behind the possibility, there needs to be an intention.
Right.
And not all intentions are good or well-meaning. It's also being grown up enough to understand.
Which, yes, as a parent, I have flat out come to you. And I say this freely, like I'm not bragging on my shortcomings here, but just so I say some embarrassing things about myself just so other people can hopefully learn from it. And I have had to come to you before. And when I've asked myself, what is my intention? If the answer is my intention is Seth's well-being and growth, then I would be open to a possibility. There are times when part of the a little intention that snuck in there that I'm unaware of without having asked the question is, I want to win this one. I want to be right. What the heck? And why shouldn't I? It's a reward in itself.
So maybe this
but not the ultimate.
And maybe this is also part of what we were talking about, examining a little more deeply, because the mind is quick, right?
Right.
So we might need to ask that question of ourselves a few times. What is my intention? Because again, we can hold various intentions. My main intention is for the
we can justify various intentions in a very unhealthy way. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, so true. So my intention is for the safety and well-being of my child. And what else? Nothing. Is there anything else underneath it? I don't know. Maybe I just feel like I'm right on this and I want to be right. Okay. That's very human. Anything else? So this exploration where we're going back to of this personal dialogue with ourselves, we have to work very hard to cultivate this inner questioner that is non-judgmental of us, that allows us to sink more deeply into the truth of, yeah, I guess I want to win.
It's the flip side of what you were saying. How can this be?
Yes.
So you're not saying, how could I be wrong? I'm here for my kid.
Right.
Versus a true curiosity. So it sounds a little different, but like, how can this be that my voice is coming out like strained and hostile when I'm here for my kid? How can this be? Is there something else there? Well, that's okay. And it's okay. What's not okay is to not become aware of it when it happens.
And I do kind of like this because I feel like you're onto something just with the intersection of whoever you may be in, possible conflict with. So you're questioning your own intention, and maybe there's a list of them, but the one that is most virtuous is the safety, the growth and well-being of my child. And then you think about the other person's intention, and you may have a list of theirs: to be the authority, to be in control, to have the safety and well-being of my child, the growth and well-being. So we match. And this is the place at that intersection that we begin the conversation. So are we putting down the intention that we're both after the same thing? So that will give our egos, our pride, our need to win, to be right, a rest.
Yeah.
Like you could go have, like you called it, like a little mini retreat. You could go on your little mini retreat. And we've got this virtuous work of trying to now meet this goal together with our two opposing viewpoints, but we've got the sacred third. And the sacred third is, I think, that
I just pictured one time that you and I actually did reach ahead, nothing to do with the children, but just weirdness or whatever. And I do remember I likened it to an ongoing struggle I'd had with my sister, where it was like setting times to get together and do stuff. And it would turn into this kind of struggle and a struggle that was no longer about what seemed like we're just talking about getting together. And it's like, well, why can't you come here? Well, why can't you take a day off? This is your family, but you could use your imagination for the rest of it. And I had told you at the time, the day that this all ended is when I was like, why are we're arguing, but you get this, right, sis? This is what I'm telling my sister. I'm like, you get this, sis, right? we're fighting for our love. We both love each other. Like, let's at least start there.
That's the virtue.
We stopped the fight because we recognized what overlapped in all this stuff and messiness was a really good intention. And it was just habitual stuff that was rising. Like, I habitually argue like this, or she habitually dominates me because she was a couple years older and bigger than me, so many things that we would fall into. And I had told you at the time, I kind of, when me and you disagree, it's kind of like we're just working out how we love each other.
Completely.
And there was a moment we had said, okay, so then what do we do from here? And we were like, we just agree that in love, we are intellectually honest and emotionally honest with each other. And then we accept the yelling and stuff because I accept that you are committed to this promise. So if your voice raises, it's not that you're removing some of that. I get that's there. The rest is just what's happened, the sounds that accompany. I feel like we've been cool since. I mean, we were cool before, not to take.
You know what?
You get what I'm saying,
I agree
though?
completely. No, I think because what that does is it starts to build this level of clarity, because it gets confusing with the emotions.
When
feelings flood in and we start to get confused. But to imagine a possibility where people can say, my intention, right? My intention is to love, right? That was the one you were just using. It's just to work for our love. My intention is also, right, to have the upper hand or to be right, or to actually have that permission to say all that other stuff is here too. And just by saying it, it begins to pop like little bubbles, burst out.
I actively bring that into disagreements I have with no shame at this stage in my game.
Yes.
Where I just tell people, like, I kind of just want once in a while for you to also let me have a little, so I know that we are equal.
And that
and
is
sometimes
important.
I do say this just like that, just ugly and embarrassing. And I'm like, my intention is what we're talking about, but I also want you to know it kind of bothers me that I always feel like our peace comes with at my surrender. And why can't we also say that and be safe?
We completely need
But it starts by acknowledging, not that like they're mean, they're bad, because then that's they. What I can say is that I'm feeling really insecure because I feel like this is happening. I'm talking about me, and then I'm maybe at the worst time in the heat of a moment, or I could bring it up later. And I'm saying, I'm here about this, but since it came up and I just asked myself the question, I'm also kind of working out this feeling I'm having that you could maybe help me resolve.
Yes, and I think
for our progression,
that's the way. That's
right?
this
just
kind
of
modeling. And very much what you say often is that it first starts as this inside job.
Right.
So when we are in the questioning within ourselves, we need to be doing it with a loving presence, a voice, God, the God within, whatever we want to call it, but a practice at that to feel like, okay, if I am feeling it, it's within the range of human feelings, right? We have a big range,
I like that.
right?
Yes, that's so normalizing,
right?
Oh my gosh,
it is. Now, if I don't voice it, it festers and gets covered up, hardens my heart, creates violence. I have to be able to take care of this. And so the more we practice that way, then we start to find one or two friends in the world that we could actually do it with.
Freedom.
Our partners, hopefully, where we can do it with. And then it gives you this sustainability. I go back to that.
I love that.
I know. I'm going back to that word because I want this way to be regular, right?
You want it instilled in a way that it is natural, because we've talked about along our way here where we live in a lot of norms, but that's not the same as natural. And
Yes.
you're talking about sustaining the natural so that we normalize naturalness, because we have this really unnatural approach to relationships, to life, to love, but it's normal. So we rank it higher than what's most right. But
Yes.
that's not the way it goes.
No, that's the whole unlearning, undoing, and even considering the possibility that is this really my heart's truth, or is this part of a conditioning, right? You were talking about the conditioning of beliefs.
And sometimes it's also the conditioning, and you have to say it is the conditioning, and it's a conditioning in the heat of this moment. I've stepped a little too far into that inertia. I can't pull back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to beat my chest, but I'm going to tell you that I will examine this later.
Yeah, that's great. That's very kind.
But it's just that being honest. This is the best I can do.
Well, and that is this whole love your enemy, right? That it is understanding the enemy and taking care of the work that needs to be done, because we're enemies within ourselves too. We all have got an enemy within us.
When you think you're striking out at anybody, it tells you a lot about how you're feeling about yourself.
So that is to understand and to be kind.
Be kind, which is, I want to add, when you ask, what's my intention? Two intentions, okay, in interaction. I'm a contributor or a receiver. Those are the two options for like a healthy exchange and opening yourself and others to possibility. I'm only here to contribute or to receive. Never there to be a taker, to destroy, or to exploit. And that comes from what you had said. I still haven't done it like officially, where you said one of your prayers in the morning is to do no harm. And that's by doing no harm. The simplest way is today I'm going to either contribute or receive.
That is,
and I'm limiting my actions to those. And you can even be doing the same things, but taking versus receiving changes everything.
And a consciousness in receiving, because it's difficult, I think, for many of us to receive and to fully be present in that, like to receive it and hold it. It's certainly one of the things that I am learning to be more comfortable with at this stage of life, and it's not easy for me. I shy away from it, right, Lori?
No,
and I'm like, I'd rather be contributing. And in the stop, right, this complete stop of my life over the last 9 months now, I guess, I have really been working just to receive, again, those tender mercies we talked about, and to hold that and become comfortable with it.
And it with that increase of the kindness and understanding that you're talking about, and the just the sensibleness of you're not just there to contribute, but also to receive. That all speaks about increasing possibility. Okay, so you increase your kindness, you increase possibility, you increase understanding, you increase possibilities, wisdom, sensibleness, all of it. And
well, I'm going to hold you, because we were talking last show about the engineering, right?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So I feel like what you just said is actually, one of the steps in creating possibility, right? Focus on receiving, focus on increasing kindness. Like take one of
systematic,
those, like every day, let me just take one of these or do it for a month and let me see what happens and see where I start to notice. But to have that eye, right, through this needle that we're threading of I'm putting the thread of kindness through. Now let me see what begins to get sewn together.
Sewn, and you saw the flowers that had been previously sewn.
Oh,
I love it.
Another kind of sewn, yeah.
Yes, the homonyms that I like. And I think just by practicing those little things that you're talking about is it increases ultimately our naturalness with it, which is increases our insight and future ability to be more efficient at all of it.
Yes.
Is that a fair way to
Efficiency.
end? Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, so much more to be said, but for
Let's
now,
close that out.
we wanted to add those little bits to the last talk. Thank you again for joining us. You can like and share. And also we're here on Strong Island Radio with Bobby. Pretty sensible guy, if I do say so myself.
pretty
Speaking
efficient,
pretty efficient, pretty kind.
producing possibilities.
Yes, producing possibilities, Bobby. Anyways, thank you. Please listen to your heart. Be good to each other. Be open to possibility when possible. Possible. It's always possible. Did you hear that? The limiting?
Yes, I love
And
that.
farewell until next time.